I thrive with a self-diagnosed condition called show-tunitis, where I burst out into show tunes at the drop of a hat.
This chat with one.
True, my special gay quality, because it's joy and gay.
Welcome to The Drive Home. My name is Kristen Kavanaugh, and I am your host for today. And I am so excited for our final guest episode of the season. I have a friend of mine that I am so excited to welcome today. We started out as professional colleagues in the conference scene and doing leadership development work together, and very quickly turned into friends. And so he is one of the most authentic people I have met, and he is so kind and so caring, and he has been generous in pulling me into his community, and I couldn't be more grateful. His name is Eduardo Placer. He is the founder of Fearless Communicators, one of the best storytellers I know, and I am just so grateful to have you here, my friend. Welcome to The Drive Home.
Yes, I'm so excited to be on this drive with you and with everybody who's listening. Such a privilege.
Amazing. How are you, sir?
I am feeling more in my body than I have in a long time.
Okay.
And that feels good.
Like
It's been cloudy. It's been rainy. I have wanted a deep blanket, a nice, deep, heavy blanket, and a binge watch. I have recommendations for the long drive home. Not when you're driving, but maybe for the passenger, definitely not for the kids in the back.
Right.
And yeah, I feel like the season is opening up, and I'm appreciating, they're glimmers of light. And that feels really good.
I mean, I think it's hard to find glimmer these days. There's a lot of things to
100%.
be concerned.
Yeah, 100%. It's been cloudy. It's been cloudy. It's been very, very cloudy. Very, very, very cloudy, very stormy. And there are cracks. There are little cracks. And, I can imagine that for you and maybe the listeners, it's like, those days that when you're in the shade, it's really cold, but then the sun comes out for a moment and you feel the warmth and the heat.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets cloudy again and chilly, and I feel like I'm getting more of those days where it's not fully cloudy and cold and chilly, but we're getting more and more of these breaks. Maybe that's what it is. It's these breaks of light, these breaks of warmth, and breaks for me of possibility. And
yeah.
I'm really holding on to those, really cherishing those moments.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to, right? It's something that's been a thread throughout the entire season is how can we do that and really keep our humanity and bring people together and make sure we're finding those connection points. And that's something that I admire about you and your work, and you have brought me in to your community. And so, I think that's what I would love to talk about today is how can we continue to help each other find those glimmers and build community and build connection when it seems like things might be a little dire at times or shady.
Yeah, totally.
So tell me a little bit, what is bringing you energy right now and kind of giving you hope and possibility?
I have fallen down the rabbit hole of romance genre.
Okay.
And one of those is Heated Rivalry, the Canadian TV show queer joy love story. It's all around hockey, and I don't even watch hockey. And then there's this other show that was just recently released on Amazon Prime called Off Campus. And it's the straight college version of adult Heated Rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's some really interesting, as a storyteller and someone who loves story and consumes story, is a student of story, is a participant in story, I am noticing some trends in the zeitgeist that are actually really meaningful, and I think signals that there are cracks that are antithetical to maybe how we're experiencing culture in the moment, at least in the United States and maybe globally. And I'll give some examples. So one of the things that I think is so powerful about Heated Rivalry as a story is it centers two gay male characters. And it's a romance story where nobody dies. as
Right.
gay characters.
Right.
It's like we get a happy end. It shouldn't be
Right.
revolutionary
But it is.
that
Yes.
we get a happy ending, you know, and that no one's getting beaten up or killed for being gay or queer,
Right.
you know, and that this little show this Canadian show with a limited budget was able to cut through all of the noise and create this momentum of like joy around this queer story that has been seen all over the world. And it's
Right.
interesting that a lot of the audience is actually women. It's not even just gay men, you know, it's written by a queer woman, produced, directed, adapted by a queer man. Uh, and, and there's just this celebration of love as being love and two human beings who are finding love against so much internal and external kind of hardship, and that they get their happy ending, that they get their cottage. That to me, as a gay man who's, you know, I've been out now for over 30 years, you know, I am, you know, deep in my 40s, you know, cusping on 50, you know, but I exercise and I moisturize. That I think that there's something interesting about that I think has been just really healing and celebratory. And what I think is interesting for off campus, which is a heteronormative narrative, is in some ways uh, almost an antidote to the manosphere
Mm-hmm.
and all of this toxic masculinity and this look maxing and the Andrew Tate and what you have modeled in this story are very, you know, unequivocally heterosexual men who are practicing behavior of consent and respect and intimacy with women. And it's just interesting to see that play itself out in a way that feels not the characters that would be doing that growing up
Right.
in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, you know?
Right. Right.
So I almost feel like, yes, we're getting, you know, Andrew Tate, manosphere and all this other stuff, but then we're also getting through this cultural moment other narratives that are counterbalancing that I believe and hope are going to break through.
Right.
So that is just one symbol of like cultural moments. And then what I'm also choosing to do is not follow social media, not watch the news, like be very clear about what I'm allowing in
Right.
to my space to consume. I'm
Right.
doing a lot of reading, which I really love. So that's also a piece of it. And then to our conversation, Kristen, what I've been doing intentionally, I would say that the cloudiness and the chill and the cold had me retreat.
Mm.
So I would
Yes.
say that since
Yeah.
the end of 2024, I've been in a retreat. And
Yes.
people may look at me and be like, Eduardo, you're not retreating. I've been retreating,
Yeah.
you know, and I think part of it, you know, and I've used this metaphor before, I think with you, you know, for those of you who, this is your first time meeting me, I have the privilege of running a global public speaking coaching business called Fearless Communicators. A lot of our clients are women, people of color, LGBTQ folk. And I think people who are on the front lines of so many of the attacks that have been experienced for people who are in leadership, thought leaders, just human beings, since the end of 2024 and into this current season. And I've often used the metaphor about our work. Be a lighthouse, like stand on that promontory, beam your light. This is actually what we were talking about, Kristen, when we met. When we met, it was March of
That's right.
2025. And we had this 2-hour kind of beautiful conversation as we were kind of reckoning with our
Yes.
beloved LGBTQ plus community. Like, how do we, in Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
how do we show up in this moment and
Right.
acknowledging that standing on a promontory and beaming your light is an immense space of privilege.
That's right.
And that there are people who the realities of their life means that they can't stand on that promontory. And the
Yes.
most important thing for them to do is protect their personal physical safety and that of those that they love. So I kind of was thinking about the metaphor and thinking that it's not so much about the lighthouse, but how are you tending to your light?
Mm.
And, you know, in different times in history, you know, there was like code that would indicate to people that you were safe harbor. So maybe it's not a lighthouse, but maybe it's a candle on your window.
Right.
You know, maybe it's I'm carrying a flashlight, or I have a lantern, or maybe it's a disco ball. I mean, again, it depends. Like, we all have different
Right.
ways that we can tend to that light, and that's okay. And that how do we know to be able to identify and note other light bearers and other light bringers? No, that I would say that even that, though that was my narrative and my story, I was retreating, and I was protecting my light.
No, I mean, I think that's like you being in retreat, like this is your job, right? And like you are somebody that I look to that is, kind of the standard bearer and it's bringing joy and a voice. And, like all of us normies out here, like it's so hard to say this is a moment where we're going to step forward or we're going to, and I feel like a lot of people are just in that retreat mode. And
Mm,
so, and that's what we've heard across the show, right? Is
yeah.
like, I don't have the for whatever reason, like I don't have the
Hmm.
energy. I have too much going on. My kids are taking up all my time. My work is taking up all my time, and I can't make the space
Mm,
or have the capacity to be that light or to go and build community with people. The pandemic didn't
mm,
help, right? Like they gave a lot of
no.
folks an excuse, right? But we're 5 years out of that. But I think there are a lot of people who just don't know how to recover. And that was the whole point of this
Mm,
podcast, right? Was like a buddy of mine, we're talking about how we just don't do that anymore. We don't call each other on our drive home. And so, how do we start to remind people that even though things may be cloudy, this is the
mm,
time where we've got to build community and we have to
yeah.
move into the light together. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious about that in your perspective of like there's just a lot of people that are feeling that right now, and I feel like this
Yeah.
is a way for us to kind of bring them along with us.
Yeah. I think I'm really sitting in this light metaphor, by the way.
Do
I'm
it,
really
do
living
it.
for it. And I feel like we both have amazing light, by the way, right now too. Like, I'm getting
Look
amazing
beautiful.
light from my window. I have amazing light in front of me. Wherever you are, may you be greeted by amazing light. May that be the blessing. May that be the blessing as you're driving home. Wherever you're driving to, may you be blessed with beautiful light. Um, you know, One of the things that I was very conscious of, um, post 2024, the election of 2024. I'm just going to be very specific about that that
Yep,
moment.
yep.
Where to be, like in 2024, I had 3 leg surgeries. I had snapped my quad tendon. I snapped it 8 weeks after that again, and then I had a pseudo aneurysm behind my knee.
What were
And I had
you doing?
emergency vascular. I was in Puerto Rico at a gay Halloween thing, and I slipped and fell on a staircase. I mean, it's like, it's not a
God.
great story. It's like so silly. And like, I have unbelievable health privilege, Kristen. I have my
Right,
tonsils, I have my appendix, I have my wisdom teeth. Like, I've never, this is the first time I had ever had any surgery, was at that time when I was,
right.
47 or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so I was in a space after having been like somebody who CrossFitted 5 times a week and was very physically active, all of a sudden dealing with body and like a lack of mobility or emotion, or actually dealing with a disability. Like I had a
Mhm,
period of disability, and
mhm,
that was like dealing with physical limitation. Something simple, like I live in New York City, so you're constantly combating time. You're walking down the stairs and there's a subway car in 1 minute.
mhm.
The next one is in 10 minutes. So I would jump 3, 4, 5 steps
Right,
down, and there's
right,
that micro victory of like, I got on the subway.
right.
Couldn't do that.
Mm, yeah,
I couldn't charge across the street in the final
a
seconds
second.
of the street walking sign. I had to wait a whole other beat for me to be able to cross the street. I couldn't,
Yeah.
because I couldn't run. So there was kind of an so there was already a slowing down, I'll say, that happened, right? Then on top of that, after the election, I got Bell's palsy. So I had temporary paralysis on the side of my face for about 2 weeks, and then my father dies,
Mm,
in August. In January of 2025, I get stuck on a mountain for 24 hours without food, water, and cell phone coverage. by
What is your
myself.
life?
I was
What is your
officiating. I was going to
life?
officiate a wedding in the mountains of Colorado. My running joke with everyone at the wedding is I'm a sea level gay. I am not a homosexual that thrives at altitude. And I was like, the sea level gay has landed. And then the Waze takes the sea level gay through a summer pass that should have been closed. And then I got stuck in
No.
the snow for 24 hours without, again, food, water, and cell phone coverage. It's a whole other story about how I was saved and what I did to be rescued and to be saved.
Yeah.
Which is now a keynote that I give and an article that I've written and stuff like that. But anyway, I've been through it.
Right.
And I will say that I was tending to micro garden, right? And that micro garden was very insular. Now I'm Cuban and I come from a very large family, so I also understand and know how to navigate broad networks of people. And I think it's cultural and I think it's also familial. Like we had a Noche Buena and my family would have somewhere between 40 to 50 people, and it's chaos. Yeah, noise and pork and music and dancing and, this and, so I am able to navigate and manage it. But I was tracking and noting, I was like, wait a second, like I'm just not engaged with people very much. And I think I made a conscious effort. I think part of the thing from 2024 till today is looking at, if we go to the theme of light, who are people or what are places that are beaming light that feels warm, that feels safe? And I think at the core of that is people who are beaming values that align with yours.
Yes.
And that's what I've been on the hunt for. So I have been and it's not just in the United States, I've been on the hunt for it global, because what's happening here in the US is happening everywhere in the world, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious about who are the gatherers and where are the spaces where people will gather because the quality of light that is being beamed is something that's drawing me forth. And I've been in that experiment, I will say, since last year. And what I think I've been doing since March, and you were a part of this, Kristen, is instead of me showing up to other people's places, is me doing it on a micro level with people who I want to be in relationship with and people who I think need to know each other.
Yep.
So it's not about throwing a party for 700 people or throwing a conference or whatever, but who can I gather for a dinner and maybe, or lunch or a breakfast? And there's something lovely about breaking bread together because there's extraneous activity that's happening, like we're going to eat, or it feels like low lift. You don't have to invite them to your house. You can if you want to.
Yeah.
And part of this setting that intention, which is like, I know some great people and I want great people to know. This is a season for great people to know great people.
Yeah. Well, I think we talked about too, you mentioned a couple, like two different types of relationships and that people are navigating right now. And that's transactional relationships and then it's relational relationships. And I feel like what you're trying to build is something that is relational and built around values and built around experiences. And so I'm curious, could you talk a little bit more about that and some of the transactional, like kind of what you meant by that?
So, I was on the board of a nonprofit called the Cuban American Alliance for Leadership and Education. And when we went to Cuba with some students in January of 2023. And no, I lied, January of 2024. I don't know why I'm getting hung up on it, but it was January of 2024. And we met the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to Cuba, and he made a distinction between high context and low context cultures. And he said Cubans are a high context culture. And so, for example, it is very common in Miami, where I'm from, and I'll say Miami for the Cuban Americans in Miami, where they will say, so where did you go to high school? Or what is your family's last name? Okay, great. So the last name is Rodriguez Levanti. I just made that up or whatever. Okay, great. So that means your father, did he live at this house and this place? Okay, great. He's the cousin of my, godfather's sister's, babysitter. And then all of a sudden, like, we're family.
But
there is this like relational chess that is happening that is ultimately about building trust.
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
before we do business with each other, we got to spend time kind of getting to know each other. It's interesting. When I did a lot of work in Australia, and in indigenous culture in Australia, I don't want to do this blanket, like all indigenous, but this one specific gentleman who I was speaking to that was talking about his community. Before we talk about business, we're going to yarn, meaning we're just going to tell stories.
Oh, wow.
Who are your
That's cool.
people? Where are
Yeah.
you from? What do you love? So what we're doing is we're getting to know each other before we transact.
Yes.
And there are other
Yes.
cultures that are transactional. Do you have the money? Great. Awesome. Shake the hand. Great. See you later. Bye.
Mhm.
And for example, I would say like the American South is high context.
Mhm.
There's certain parts of the country. It's not all the United States. I feel like New York City is it can be very transactional. It's like, do you have the
Yeah.
money? Great. Sign up. Great. Amazing. Bye. We don't have
Yeah.
time. So acknowledging one, I come from a high context culture. So I operate in the world very curious about the relational chess of
Yes.
people and places and how do we intersect and connect. And I love playing that game. It's actually really joyous.
Yeah.
And I think what that game does is it helps to build and foster trust.
Yes.
So and I'll give you an example. There's a networking event that I went to. And I will say, Kristen, prior to this, I was feeling very cloudy and I felt like I was spinning a lot of plates and I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I'm showing up somewhere, and I kind of knew that the quality of that light was good. It was
Yeah.
good quality light. I was like, I
Yeah.
can trust that this is a place where I will be in the world of people who are values aligned with me.
Right.
And that's
Yep.
who I want to meet. And I want to meet new people. I want to be swimming in new waters with new people, and I want new people that are values aligned. And I go to this event, and at this event are two people who were in a small group with me at a conference in Portugal
Yeah.
in the social impact sector last year.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's interesting that out of 500 attendees at this conference, I was in a small group of 20 people. And at this other event in New York City, the three of us gathered. Now, I live in New York. One of the people lives in San Francisco, and the other person lives in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
And just the synchronicity that the three of us happened to be at this event says something
Yes. Yes.
about why we're there, the community that's gathering, that there is definitely alignment there.
Yes.
Then it was at a social impact kind of incubator, co-working spacey kind of thing in the city. So then there was another networking event. As I'm leaving my networking event, this guy who's kind of the host of it looks at me, he's like, "Are you Eduardo Placer?" And I was like, "Yes." He's like, "Did you MC the Elevate Prize Foundation Summit?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh my God." And then he had been on the panel. He had just left his job at this corporation and he had just moved back to New York with his family. So we just started talking and it was like amazing. And it was like, oh my God, it's such synchronicity. How wonderful. And then we finish. And this woman looks at me and she says, "Are you Eduardo Placer?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm Eduardo Placer." She's like, "We're a part of another community called The Upside. You led an end of year event that was so moving and so powerful." I was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." And we'd comment on each other's LinkedIns, but we had never
Mhm.
connected in
Yep.
person. And
Yep.
then I finished that conversation and I'm heading out. And this other woman's like, "Are you Eduardo Placer?" And I was like, "Yes." So just the showing up,
Yes.
right? And then being curious about the serendipitousness
Yes.
of who is there, I think tells you that you're swimming in good water, in
Yes.
safe water. So there's something about the magic of that, the alchemy of that, that I will say to me, Kristen, when I was feeling cloudy and I was feeling dark, all of those, I feel like they're universal affirmations of
Mhm.
connection and right path. It's like a sign. It's like I'm in the right place.
Yes.
Because what I will say is all these people are extraordinary human beings. I want to be surrounded by as many extraordinary human beings as possible.
And
I
that's
want to keep
hard.
extraordinary company. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's not like
that's
everybody's
hard
like
these days.
cured cancer. I'm not saying everybody's cured cancer, but it's like good people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Good
and
people.
there's so many people around, right? That it's hard to be discerning and figure out who do you give your time to, and because it is limited, right? And so how do you find the places? And so I think like the values aligned question, or the places where you're getting a light, like I think that's a really good kind of test to say like how do I know when and where I'm going to spend my time because it is precious? I need to make sure I'm around the people that are going to give me energy and add to my light, versus just look for something that's transactional and then nobody
Correct.
gets anything out of it.
And you want to be mindful of the vampires.
Right.
Because they're energy vampires. They're people who are going to drain those energy sucks. The dementors that just like literally suck your energy, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
You want to be mindful of those. Be mindful of the energy vampire. But I think that's a perfect example, Kristen, of, for example, the lunch that I did in Austin, where I think there's a different emotional lift if you're having like, I have limited time to have a conversation with one person for 45 minutes or an hour or two or whatever. But I can gather 8 people. I think 8 is a nice number, 7 to 8 people.
Mm.
And we gather. And then it's like, then there's lots of room for conversation or whatever. And then you're providing everyone with the benefit of like new people.
Right.
But you don't feel like you have to hold the attention of the conversation for the entire time. Right. And what we did is I think I just had one prompt or something. Like I had people introduce themselves and like what is bringing you joy these days was the question that I had. So just to have like one simple prompt that had people like communicate that. And what's so crazy is then there were so many synchronicities that were in the gathering of these 4 people.
Right. It was incredible.
It was crazy. It was really, really beautiful. And I think that and it can just be that. It doesn't mean that now you have to be my best friend forever and I have to tell you all about everything that's happened in my life. And then, I have to tell you about every trauma that I've had. It doesn't have to be that. It can just be like we had a beautiful, wonderful lunch.
Well,
Great.
And I think that talks to what you ended up talking about is like, there is like friends of relevance and then friends of permanence. Right. And so I feel like that's something that's stuck with me as well from our conversations is like, not everybody has to be your best friend. But damn it, those ones that are aligned and you have the trust and the respect and all of the the list of things, like you better hold on to them because those are good people that you need permanently in your life.
And I think it's I was speaking to somebody else, and it's helpful to think in terms of seasons, just as a metaphor, right? There's a season where the soil rests, right? There's a season where we plant seeds. There's the season when plants grow, and then there's a season when we harvest what has grown. And then we have to change the plants, we have to change the seeds. We can't plant the same thing over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So I think, and it doesn't all have to look like 3 months and 3 months and 3 months and 3 months, right? Some people can be in a period of rest, the pandemic, mental health, depression, other things that could cause someone to have like a season of rest that could be a year or 2 or 3, and that is okay. I think we want to be like, however you are navigating whatever season you're in, what a blessing that you're alive and what a blessing that you're navigating it. So however you're doing it, there's no judgment. This is not like a pathway to like, this is the best way or the only way to do it. Like some, TikTok influencer, who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's understanding that in life that we need changes and shifts of seasons, right? So if you have been in a season where there's been a lot of rest and the soil has not been tended to, right? Then knowing it's going to take some time, like to plant the seeds and not to be discouraged, right? So plant a couple seeds. Not every seed grows, right? Tend to the garden. It's so there's a beauty. Now, for those of you who don't know me, which is probably nobody who's on the long ride home with you and me, Kristen, but now they do know me. I say that I thrive with a self-diagnosed condition called show-tunitis, where I burst out into show tunes at the drop of a hat. This is one of my
this chat with one.
True, my special gay quality, because it's joy and gay. there's a musical called, based on the book Candide by Voltaire. And the end of the play has one of the most stunning songs. It's written by Leonard Bernstein and is one of the most stunning songs, I believe, in the entire American musical, and one of my favorite songs ever. This is a great song for a playlist for your long ride home.
Yeah.
And the song is called Make Your Garden Grow. We'll make our garden grow. And the character Candide and Cunegonde and all the characters, basically, they've lived in the best of all possible worlds where everything that is amazing and possible could be possible. And then human beings get involved and there's natural disaster and famine and rape and like disaster in the best of all possible worlds.
Right.
Right. It's crazy when this was written. Do you know what I mean? It still rings true today. And the character Candide, at the end of the play says that maybe what there is for me to do is find a little bit of earth, right? Find a modest acre,
Mm-hmm.
And he says, we are neither poor nor rich nor wise nor good. We'll do the best we know. We'll build a house and chop our wood and make our garden grow and make our garden grow. And then it's like he starts by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then this whole choral thing adds as like everyone joins.
Right.
And then the orchestra cuts out and there's this a cappella section that to me, I find the greatest and closest expression to heaven and God in harmony.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that looks like we're in the World Cup right now. It's the Scottish people with their bagpipes, blasting that music, bringing joy wherever they are, right? It's the Norwegians rowing in harmony,
Yeah.
It's the message from the Korean team to the Mexican team saying, you have found lifelong friends with each other and how you have hosted us and how you have treated us during this. Like we are, there is so much possibility for human good, and it is in harmony. It is when our voices and our bodies and all of the instruments that we play come together in the creation of something bigger and better and beautiful. And it's temporary and it is fleeting. We don't get it forever. We may get it for a second and it feels so, so good. And I think it reminds us of what is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went on this diet. I don't know where the hell I was going with that, but I think that I mean, I think that
it was beautiful.
that's sort of what I'm after harmony. And that happened at the dinner, that lunch that we had. There was harmony. There were 5 strangers who got together and all of a sudden there was harmony, right? And that doesn't mean there can't be dissonance. That doesn't mean that there can't be tension. That doesn't mean that it doesn't all have to be like, that's not gonna come out tomorrow. It doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
There can be, again, it can have friction, but in the friction, in the tension, there is life.
Yep.
And that's what I'm hungry for in this chapter, And again, we're getting signals of it.
Yeah.
If we're looking for it, if we're primed for it. And I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but this is my my modest proposal, my hot take. As we are sitting, both of us in the United States of America right now,
Right.
and I don't know where your listeners are, if they're in the US or if they're elsewhere, but my modest proposal is that at the beginning of every congressional session, they begin not by separating into Democrat, Republican, or Independent, but separating into soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. And what they teach them is the Star Spangled Banner in 4-part harmony. And that the moment that they all start going into their Fox News or MSNBC rabbit hole of like, I'm going to be as loud as I can to create chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing the gavel or thumping down the gavel, the sergeant at arms blows a pitch pipe and they all have to sing the Star Spangled Banner to remember that there's a bigger project at hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that project is called the United States of America. It's not called Democrat and Republican.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I clearly have my own point of view, right? And I can appreciate and understand that this is a country where not everybody shares my point of view, right? And ideally, the hope is that we're able to navigate and compromise, right? To make it work for as many of us as possible,
Yes.
in
Yes.
that trajectory. That
Yes.
the bend of the history is towards greater justice and greater freedom and greater equality for all, right?
Yes.
Knowing that that is a project, that is not like, and it's happened, but it is, we are human beings. We will fail, but that it is a project that we are on, constantly trying to be better.
Yes.
And that's what I'm hungry for in this season.
What that speaks to me is like we all have a role, and whether that's a soprano or alto or however you want to think about it, and we all have responsibility. And I think that's what we've
Mm,
forgotten, right? Is that we
mm,
all play a role in this, no matter what your job is or your title or where you live or whatever. But like we all have a role in this experiment that we're in. And we all have a responsibility to make sure that we are
mm,
pushing in the right direction with more equality for all, more for more people. And I think folks have forgotten that. And, I think there are a lot of reasons why folks have forgotten that. But I don't think we've done ourselves any justice
mm.
with a lot of the tech that is now
Correct.
permeating our lives that
Mm,
give us the ability to not take responsibility, that make us feel more disconnected than we actually are, and that remove us from that role that we've been given to make things better. And so I'm curious, like your hot take on that. Like, where do you think tech plays in
mm.
just giving people an easy out to not have to play their part?
I think that the greater journey of technology is around making our lives easier as human beings, right? And in the nature of making our lives easier, right, it creates whole new other complications and challenges, and that then we're like, an app will solve or something else
Right.
will solve, right? And ultimately, what it's looking, technology and industry and invention in the world of making our work easier, right, is also in some ways about eliminating pain, right? Or that's a very general word, but that's also hardship and discomfort and things that are not easy. Like, we want to make things easier. People are not easy.
Right.
Human beings are not easy. A relationship with a human being is not easy because we're not a machine. And I
Right.
decline and I resist the language of optimization. I'm not going to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and do 17 crunches and 17 minutes of journal pages, and cold plunge, to turn myself into a machine. I'm not a machine.
Right.
I resist the metaphor. I decline the metaphor. I
Yeah.
am a person. I'm a human being with a spirit and light, and I am a creature. I am an animal. I have instinct. I have impulse. I have creativity. I have imagination. I have free will. Like, all of these things make me something other than
Yes.
a phone, a computer, an AI chatbot,
Right.
right? And I think we're in a moment where we have to reclaim and reaffirm our humanity,
Yes.
right? So I resist that optimization. I will not be optimized. I decline being optimized. My job is not to be optimized, right? The work that I am in isn't to be the best person I can possibly be. And it's interesting. I've been thinking about this a lot. I love a long ride home where I'm getting emotional like every 20 seconds.
That's the whole point.
The whole point. The whole point. But I lost my father. And I was recently in Miami. And I created an opportunity. There's a museum in Miami called the Freedom Tower, which is like the Ellis Island for the Cubans. And
Okay.
I met the people who created this museum in Miami. They were up here in New York and New Jersey, and had a beautiful conversation with them. And they were like, whenever you're in Miami, bring your family and we'll do a tour for them. So I had 4 generations of my family come
Wow.
to this museum. and it was like a hodgepodge of family members and, things like that. And afterwards we went to a very famous Cuban restaurant. We had food. And then there was that awkward moment of like the bill was being placed, and I can appreciate that. I'm the person who gathered everybody. I'm the person who gathered. And it would be strange for this constellation of people to like take up the bill or whatever. And when they came, I was like, you know what? I got it. Right? And I said, my father would have gotten it.
Yeah.
And then my mother was started to cry, and it was like, but then when I was talking to my mom afterwards, I said to her, Mommy, I was thinking of Papi, my father. His name is Felix Eduardo. It's important, I think, to name names. So now my father lives for all of you.
Yes.
And there's a term in Spanish, and there was a compliment that my father would pay on someone. And he would say, that guy, ese hombre, tremendo tipo. He's a great guy. And I think that's my project for the rest of my life. That, and I think I've unconsciously been doing that, that at some point my chapter will end. And in the ways that it ends in, like for you whoever is listening on your drive home, may you be left after this conversation, if you ever hear or see the name Eduardo Placer, that may you think, tremendo tipo, great guy, right? And I think that is it is not, I mean, sure, like I have financial goals that I want, I would love, there are many things that I would obviously love to have. But all of that at the end of the day is fleeting.
That's right.
Right? It can burn down in a fire, it can be lost in a stock market crash, or my family who fled autocracies, in Cuba and in Spain had to flee with everything in a suitcase. Like you can literally lose everything that you've built. And there's that famous Maya Angelou quote, which is at the end of the day, people won't remember what you said or did. They'll remember how you made them feel, And I think that is my charge and my mission, that may people remember their interaction with me, the time that they spent in my orbit. Tremendo tipo.
I can confirm, sir. You are a great man. You are a great man. And I love having you in my life. And I think our listeners are better people for having even 30 minutes of you in their lives. And I think that is a good goal for all of us. Like, are you being a good person?
Good person. Just be a good person. Be a good person. Dot the I's and cross the T's on being a good person. Yep. And I want to come back to this idea of friends of relevance and friends of permanence, because I think that's a really rich conversation. And I came up with that distinction on the occasion of my 30th birthday. And I'm about to turn 50, which is really interesting. So I'm about to turn 50. I turned 50 in January. But on the occasion of my 30th birthday, I had a party and I gathered people, and I made a distinction between friends of relevance and friends of permanence. And it was acknowledging, I've had many chapters. Like I grew up in Miami, Florida. I came out of the closet. And I think for many people in the straddling their world before, like in the closet and then post-closet, there's oftentimes a rupture in community. Not everybody makes it to the other side of that. That has to do with religion, community, faith, all the things that families. So many of us don't have the privilege of friends that we've carried since birth, because that truth or that reality of us causes a rupture. Right. And that changes in time and history from when we grew up. I mean, I was born in 1977. I came out before Will and Grace, before Ellen. I came out in 1995. It's very different now, but there was a great silencing of people when I came out of the closet that there were friends before and there were friends after. Right. Then I went to college, and then I was a stage actor, and I went into entrepreneurship. So there have been different chapters. And then there are friends that align because there's relevance around the activities, so there are people that you're friends with because you're in class together all the time. So you're in school or you're in the same sport. or for people who are parents, you have your friends, but then all of a sudden you have kids, and then your kid's on a sports team or your kid's in a dance group or whatever. And then there you find people who share the relevance of that activity. So then there's like an ecosystem that revolves around the relevance of that,
Yes.
which is like we're picking kids up and we're taking them here and we're carpooling and then let's do dinner or I'll have a party and then great. And it's like the friends of the kids or whatever. But then the kids grow or they age and then they're new people.
Yes.
Or there are new activities or things happen, and not everybody makes it to the next piece.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's something beautiful about that being okay, right?
Yeah.
I think understanding the cycles and the seasons, and some friendships have seasons that close,
Yeah.
and that can be sad, and that sometimes is because things happen, or it's sometimes, you just lack things in common anymore, and
Right.
it kind of moves on. And I think there are ways to do that with grace and dignity and beauty and mutual respect. But what I think is really interesting is there are friends that I have carried who are not the people that I thought would be there 30
Right.
years later.
Right.
And that I think is really curious. And maybe that's an inquiry. What is it about this person
Yes.
that is my ride or die, not the person I thought would be my ride or die at 17, and yet
Right.
still in my life,
Right.
provides immense, presence and value and love
Yep.
and company. And I think that there's something really interesting to know. What is it about the quality? Why is that person? And I think those are the people I think to check in with first, maybe
Yes.
on your long ride home.
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
to pick up, it's like, oh my God, I haven't spoken to this person. I love them. I know they're my ride or die. We may not have a lot of things that are relevantly in common, but yet they still filter in. And then
Yes.
we literally pick up the conversation like no time has passed. Those
Yes.
people.
Yes. Yes.
That's a great practice, almost like a meditation to consider. On my long ride home, giving them a call.
Yeah. I love it.
And we also made the distinction. We also talked about the difference between a conversation and notification.
Mhm.
Right? And if we're going back to technology, conversation and communication is hard because I got to deal with somebody else and I got to look at them in the face and they can say something that I don't like, or they can be upset at me, or they can be angry, or they can be afraid, or whatever. And it's so much easier for me to shoot an email or shoot a text message or leave them a voicemail because what I don't have to do is actually engage with them in conversation.
Right.
Because that is painful. It is uncomfortable. It is not easy. And as human beings, we want things to be easy.
Right.
But then we lose something fundamental about our humanity in that when we don't allow ourselves that exercise. And there's actually something in Spanish, there's a beautiful term, and it's called dar la cara, which is give face to.
Mhm.
And it is a skill that we are losing because it's so much easier to not give face.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
To have the hard conversation, to look at someone in the eyes and say, why did you do that? I'm upset.
Right.
I'm sad. It's so much easier to just like ghost and cancel.
Yes.
Unfollow, unsubscribe, swipe.
Yes. Yes.
Stay in my bubble where I can be protected by myself. And no man is an island. No
Yeah.
man, no woman, no person is an island.
I mean, I think one of the first things you said to me was like, communication and community start with the same root word.
Root word.
Right? And so if you're thinking about how you're building your community and gathering your people, like communication has to be key. It is the component to be able to do that.
It is the component. It's how we build community is through communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And you're right. Like it's so easy to not do that. And we're encouraged to not do that these days.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the optimization piece, right? Like every minute is valuable to you. And that goes back to transactional relationships. Like if that is what we're doing, we're just transacting 24/7 or being transacted 24/7, then you have to optimize your time and you don't have time to go invest in those relationships. But what happens if you do? Then you have those ride or dies that are there for 30 or 40 years.
And I think that what you're also present to in that is magic. Serendipity.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I love so much about living in New York is the sliding doors moment. When you step into that subway car and you run into that person or that friend or that colleague or someone that you haven't seen in years. And it's like, what had to happen
That's right.
in their life
That's right.
and in your life to align so that at the same time we walk onto a subway car together in one of the biggest cities in the world.
That's
Now,
right.
granted, it's an island, it's concentrated, but what are the odds? And that takes also stepping outside of the door. It takes stepping outside,
Yes.
to participate in the world. And
Yes.
I'm saying participating in the world in whatever way we can, but it's oftentimes not through a screen.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And there are people whose reality is that the way that they can participate in the world is through a screen. So I'm not going to deny people that reality. But more often than not, I think a lot of what people talk about is touch grass. Maybe we need to just touch a little grass,
Right.
I live in New York, so I'm touching asphalt. There's not a lot of grass. Touch concrete, and I think that is one of the things that was so beautiful to me living in New York City about the whole Knicks victory, and walking through Harlem where I live. And in New York City, we don't have living rooms where the family can gather, where everyone can see the game.
Right.
So they do it at the bodega on the corner or the laundromat, and someone gets a big screen TV and hooks it up, and people bring their chairs, and they're sitting on the street corner, and every half a block, there's another gathering of people that are watching the game.
Yeah.
And like that, to me, the joy, the celebration, the interconnected, like that, the harmony, it was harmony.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. Not to mention an amazing underdog story, right, that we were rooting for. But we were seeing collective joy and collective celebration and human beings hugging and cheering and celebrating and alive. They're alive. They're not doing air squats and, kettlebell swings, and giving you the recipe for their favorite juicy blend or whatever. They're human beings that are just being alive. And I think that and I think that goes back to what makes us human beings in the first place. Let's feel alive. Let us be. And I think that is the antidote to the moment. Feel alive. Be alive. Not do alive. Be alive. It is a state of being. It's not a doing. Be alive. And everything that is in that being, love hard, eat amazing food, be in relationship to amazing human beings, art, creativity, be in community, be with your loved ones, be with people who fuel you and nurture you and pour into you and that you pour into them as well. Because the technology and all this on purpose is siloing us. It is actually, in the veneer of expanding our worlds is actually making our worlds smaller.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but there are people, I walk in the world thinking everyone's being fed my algorithm, and they're not.
No.
Like you haven't heard of this? You don't know you're not doing that?
Right.
It seems to me that everyone in the world is like living through my prism or my frame. And that is a lie. It is a lie, and they're selling you that lie, and we are buying the lie.
Yep.
Fuck the lie.
Yes. Yes.
Fuck the lie.
We need each other.
Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Good night and good luck. I've been waxing poetic today. I've been waxing poetic.
Incredible. I think there's, we're all smiles around here. And this is why I wanted to end with you. Like, I think, you just bring such joy and such light, and we need that reminder right now. And I think the advice that you gave of thinking about those ride or dies and just giving them a call, my mind is like, okay, like what is my list? Like who am I going to pick up the phone? And what's incredible is like I know the list. Like you know who those people are that you need to
And
connect with.
I mean, like I'm going to call one after this. So my commitment is I'm going to make a call after this, And I remember my junior year literature teacher, she was hysterical. She was like she was, I think, American, but also like Caribbean woman with some British something, and she would love to speak with a micro British accent that gave her a little bit of gravitas.
All right.
And she taught British lit, is what she taught, in high school. But she said something that I've cherished, and she says, practice random acts of kindness and senseless acts of beauty. And get that your call is a random act of kindness and a senseless act of beauty. And what if the call is just, hey, I was thinking about you. I love you. And I'm just so grateful that you're in my life. And I just wanted you to know that. And that's it.
That's it. That's all
It is a blessing. It is like literally an angel. Like you have no idea how that message is going to land on someone.
Mm-hmm.
And what if that is the task? And maybe this is a little game we can play, Kristen, which is on your long ride home, call that person and say, look, my only request is you do this to one person.
I love that.
On your long ride home, reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in a while. I love you. I'm so grateful that you're in my life. And I just want you to know that. So Kristen, I love you. I love you. I am so grateful that you're in my life. I'm so grateful that we get to spin on this rock in the solar system, in this time, for the time that we have to spin in it together. What a blessing.
You never know. I mean, that's the thing. Like when we were in Turks and Caicos last week, and I had a friend of mine from here send me an article that somebody that I just had dinner with a couple weeks ago, we both had dinner with him. Like he passed away in a plane crash, just mishap. And it's like, and this man was 50. A bunch of kids, and so it's like you just never know. You just never know. And so I accept your challenge willingly and gratefully, and can't wait to make some phone calls. My team is agreeing that they're going to play along as well, and so hopefully our listeners are willing to play along too. It makes a difference in people's lives, and that's what we're trying to do here on the drive home and in these conversations is just remind each other that we are humans first. And we have the ability to make each other's lives better. And so I am grateful. I'm so grateful for you and this conversation and our time today. And so thank you for reminding us and kind of setting us on our way for the summer. And hopefully making some connections, that folks are long or overdue.
And what I would offer, Kristen, is like reminding, but also remembering. This is intrinsic to our humanity. This is why we are human beings in the first place. We have survived millennia because of that. I love you. I'm grateful for you. I'm so happy we get to be together. Like tribe. We didn't survive as islands. We survived as tribes, and because we can't do it alone. Can't do it alone. And it is a remembering, it is in our DNA. It is in our bones. It is always accessible. And it is the antidote to the machine.
Incredible. On that note, I always ask one question at the end, and I feel like you have blessed us with many musical numbers today.
Yes.
But in the event that folks aren't able to make phone calls on their way home, I hope they're listening to music. And so we've started a playlist from our guests. And so I'm curious, what are you listening to on your walk home? Because I'm assuming you are not actually driving home.
No, I don't know.
What do you listen to? What's on your playlist?
What is on my playlist? I'm going to put it in three buckets. They're kind of three buckets of music that I will listen to. One thing that I have been in the discovery of that has actually been really fulfilling and really beautiful is Spanish music. My partner's Colombian. Our entire relationship is in Spanish. And it's been this beautiful opening to a whole repertoire of music and songs that were not necessarily in my. I mean, I am Cuban American, but born and raised in the United States. There's like the music that we would listen to and play, at the at the holidays, which was like the classic salsa, merengue, or whatever. But there's a whole world of like pop ballads and all, and it's so dramatic, and it's so like, and Spanish is such a beautiful language to sing in, so it's like the vowels are so open and it's so much drama.
Yeah.
There's one song by, I mean, he is like the gayest of all gays. The artist's name is Rafael, and he has a song called Yo, which is me. And it's like porque yo da 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 yo, and it's like yo, like repeats over and over. It is so high camp, high drama. I'm like obsessed. It is like amazing. So that's a great one.
Okay.
And anything in this whole Latin Spanish American. The other thing is that I say that I've always had the musical tastes of a middle-aged homosexual, and I'm finally a middle-aged homosexual. So I've always been a Judy Garland, Liza Minnelli, the classic American songbook. Like I was never like a Britney Spears gay, I was always like a Judy and Liza gay. Give me some Shirley Bassey, like give me like 1950s, 60s, 70s chanteuse. I want an outfit. I want vibrato. I want drama. I want pathos. That is the type of music that also fuels my soul. And I'll say there's a recording of Judy Garland from her TV show singing a song from the musical Oliver, which is As Long as He Needs Me.
Okay.
And she like goes insane in the song. I mean, she literally, like something snaps in her and you're just like, what the hell did I just witness?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it's that the vulnerability, like the pathos, like that openness that is so beautiful to witness, that it is in some ways cathartic. Like that's the thing about music, that music, like Shakespeare, like poetry, when average, ordinary sentiment, when words don't cut it anymore, we have to sing. Right. So that's why we sing, because the stakes are higher. The emotion is lifted. That's why we sing songs about love and hope and heartache and joy, like all of that, or anger or fear, all of that we have music for, because again, words just don't cut it. We need something bigger to capture and let that emotion kind of move through and ride. The third, which is a bit of a surprise, and I don't think I've ever said this out loud, so I'm saying it with all of you. Yay! And I would say that I am someone who is very agnostically, what is the word? Agnostically secular humanist. So I was born and raised Catholic, and I've been a student of religion and faith, and my own personal opinion is that this is all human beings' attempt of making sense of what happens in our life and what happens when we die. What's it all about? And I think the question and query of God or faith is attempting to give meaning to what that is. And that Judaism and Islam and whatever Christian sect that one is a part of, and Hinduism and witchiness or whatever, all of that is just a filter, a lens, a perspective, a point of view of understanding that mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And I find immense joy in songs of faith, and there is a song, it is called "Testify to Love," and it's a song that was sung by some like 1980s like Christian rock band or whatever, that was then covered by Winona Ryder. Not Winona Ryder, Winona Judd. Sorry, Winona Judd.
Yeah.
And that was a Winona Judd. And I heard it for the first time at a gay two-stepping bar in Washington, D.C. called Remington's. So the gays were dancing to Winona Judd singing Testify to Love. It's like all the colors of the rainbow, but it's very catchy. It's like, for as long as I shall live, I will testify to love, be a witness in but it has this like catchy tune. It's all about this elevation of love. And what's interesting is in the original group, one of the guys came out and was shut out
Oh, wow.
from the group.
Wow.
And they just released a cover of him back in the group singing the song. Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
So this beautiful like healing journey. So there's something about, and sometimes in my feed, like I get songs like there's like gospel and like the world of gospel and the gospel church, the singing of Black choirs, I don't know if you saw Jennifer Hudson, singing The Impossible Dream at the Obama Library thing. I mean, there's something about that, and, there was also something, I'm going to wax poetic here too, that moved the shit out of me with Jennifer Hudson singing the Star Spangled Banner, because she also sang the Star Spangled Banner, and she ate the Star Spangled Banner is what she did. Right. Think about Whitney Houston also eating the Star Spangled Banner. And these are Black women, right? How has this country harmed for generations the body of Black women?
Right.
And then lending voice and promise to the possibility of beauty, of harmony, of unity through their voice. It's the first time that I thought about it in those terms.
Right.
Like thinking like the politic of who is Jennifer Hudson.
Right.
Standing on that stage and singing that anthem in the way that she sang it.
That's right.
Right? In a country whose constitution would say that she is 3/5 of a person.
Right. To the first Black president.
To the first Black president. And his wife. On a stage with Bill and Hillary Clinton and George and Laura Bush, right? And Joe and Jill Biden. Right? To stand and lend voice to that promise. And that the voice that she is steering, what is she's creating in her voice and that possibility is the light that I am steering my heart and my body and my energy towards. And may we tend to that light together. And may we land there together very soon.
Thank you, my love, for joining. This was incredible. We appreciate you and your time and your thoughts and your wisdom. And I cannot wait for our listeners to hear this. I think this is going to be really hit home for a lot of people. And so I appreciate you so much and your vulnerability and willingness to share. And so thank you for joining today. Thank you to our listeners for joining. We hope that you enjoyed not only this episode with our Eduardo Placer, but the entire season of The Drive Home. We're coming back for a second season, and I couldn't be more excited. And so stay with us. We're going to have a great time, but this is a wonderful way for us to end our first 8 episodes together. And so thank you all for joining. It wouldn't be possible without you. And so we will see you the second season of The Drive Home.